What's up, guys? This is Kay from UFG, and today we're checking out Aether and Iron. Go ahead, tell us about the game. Or what's Aether and Iron about?
Sure. So, hi, I'm Tyler. I'm the narrative director over at Seismic Squirrel. Aether and Iron is our turn-based tactical RPG that takes place in a decopump version of the 1930s. Our alternate history take imagines what if New York, instead of sprawling outward, sprawled up. And so our New York is made of all those individual neighborhoods that you kind of know from the time. So think like little Germany or Harlem, etc. They become their own little floating kingdom. So you take the role of Gia, a smuggler in this world, and you have to navigate the politics of this world. You start off in going for what's supposed to be an easy job, but as you just saw when playing through, it quickly spirals into something much bigger that you have to dive into. Currently, the game is sitting around 30 hours to get through, fully voiced. Original soundtrack from Christopher Tin, the Grammy Award-winning artist who did the Civilization series. How we have things split gameplay-wise, so we have the RPG element where you are able to recruit heroes, upgrade your skills, navigate the world in that way, and then on combat, we have a turn-based tactical combat on a moving space, and it has a new dynamic of movement and momentum into a usually static type of combat.
Since your game falls in like the steampunk umbrella, what ultimately decided on the decopump genre of this RPG?
The simple answer is that we're cool. The more complicated answer is that when we first started off on building the game, we knew that we wanted to do a turn-based combat game with cars. That was kind of like the opening premise. The idea was like, okay, then what do we do with that? It was like, well, 1930s cars are really cool, right? What if we could make them fly? Like that's extra cool, right? Again, game developers, a lot of decisions come down to, well, this is cool, and this is more cool. And so what happened is gameplay, we started with that, and then narrative, my job and my team's job was to build a world where that made sense, right? If you have flying cars in the 1930s, what history led you there? And that's kind of what built out the whole world to justify those flying cars.
Mechanics-wise, where did you draw inspiration from?
There are many inspirations, but the humble one that we started off is Into the Breach, where we started. At the time, we got really into that game. We're like, we really want to do a turn-based tactics game. We like the strategy of it, the moving around the grid, and kind of, figuring out that positioning. And so, yeah, and then for a lot of the RPG stuff, there's a lot of games that we looked at, but honestly, we pulled from a lot of inspirations, right, for how to do the RPG side of things. So nothing super specific in that way.
What target audience and what fandoms would enjoy this game the most?
Oh man, what fandoms would enjoy? Okay, so my personal favorite, and you probably saw the inspirations. Big fan of BioShock.
Yes.
Yes.
Of course.
I am a big fan of the dystopian genre, and overall, it's one of my favorite to play, to read, to watch. So I imagine there'll be a lot of fun for that group. Another one, and maybe it's a genre that isn't fed enough, is big fan of Sky Captain in the World of Tomorrow.
Oh, that's a good movie. Yeah, that's a good movie.
Exactly. And so it's something that I personally love. And there's a lot of that inspiration in the game as well, of the kind of the maximalist sci-fi version of the 30s. And so we had a lot of fun there. And so I think people that kind of just love that 30s adventure genre, right? So, Indiana Jones, Atlantis, that type of thing. I think that's something that was special to us, and that's something I imagine that people will enjoy as well.
Yeah, definitely love those inspirations, especially you mentioned Sky Captain, The World of Tomorrow. Really, really good movie. How do the dice rolls work in this game? And what happens if you get the wrong option, you fail a roll? Is there an option to reverse things, or how does it all play out?
Sure, no, good question. So we were talking a little bit earlier about when we were trying to figure out how the RPG worked, we wanted to do something that continued this goal of immersion, right? So instead of a D20, using D6 dice is as the ability to roll for chance in the situations, because we felt that if you are in a world so volatile and dangerous as the one that we've created, there is chance involved, right? And also it's a hallmark of the genre of, the hard-boiled detective, for example, taking a chance and trying to figure something out. And then, but in that same vein, something that was important for us was that just like those detectives and heroes in old movies and novels, just because you didn't succeed, it doesn't mean that you have a boring, the path forward. It was important for us to make sure that even fail states, if you fail a roll, if you don't succeed, that a new kind of little story branch opens up for you that feels exciting and interesting. You succeeded at one of the early rolls, and funny enough, the failure on that branch is actually one of my favorite fail branches that we have in the game. I think when our approach was we still want it to be narrative first, narrative forward, and just because you don't chance isn't on your side doesn't mean you can't get an interesting thing. In regards to re-rolling and the whatnot, there are some items you can find throughout the world that allow you to do re-rolls or to roll differently. But usually what we have is, because over the course of the game you can recruit heroes to join your side and you can level them up, and as you bring them on site, they'll be able to actually lend their bonuses to the dice rolls so that you can do better in those, or you can build a party for how you want to play.
That's really good. That's actually it makes it very more user friendly. And it encourages you to recruit different types of heroes in that case, so that way you're not just stuck to this one roster you're using throughout the whole game.
Yes, absolutely. Well, and we wanted a big part of our game, and I keep coming back to it, is that kind of immersion, that experience, that fantasy of being a smuggler in this kind of dystopian-ish world. And so being able to customize your party to kind of help in that regard is a big part of it. Yeah.
And I guess you can say that it is going to call for different types of play styles as each part of the city is different. You're going to run into different enemies. You're going to run into different people. Lastly, I wanted to ask, how did vehicular turn-based combat come into play, and why'd you pick this system?
Oh goodness. Well, like I was telling you a little bit before of it, we knew we wanted to do turn-based cars. Really, how it happened was we were fixated on the idea just from the get-go because it felt interesting and different. And we're like, what if, right?
Yeah.
And that's when we started to run around story ideas to kind of fill in the gaps. And it was after that's when we really fell in love with it, right? When we built the worlds around it. But with doing cars and turn-based combat, that gives us a lot of challenges, right? Because most turn-based combat, like we've talked about, is static. You stay still, it's slow, it's methodical, with cover. And if you're in a moving environment, it doesn't really make sense, right? So what we did is we had to think about mechanically, if this is what we're building, how can we actually reflect those mechanical choices? So this is where it comes into play, where our obstacles are a lot of obstacles are other vehicles, right? And so we're like, okay, how does that change? So they can move, they can shift. When you blow one up, then the debris flies backwards, and so you can use the obstacles to your advantage. But also we have stuff where the battlefield changes, right? As it would make sense if you're in a car where the roads can split, they can deteriorate, they can narrow, they can widen. We've got tunnels and different weather conditions that can affect it. So we really, when we built this, it wasn't just let's reskin some tactical game with cars, but rather, okay, if this is on the road, what mechanically must happen to make this make sense? And that's kind of what built out a lot of the systems to support it.
Right. Okay. That makes a lot of sense then, because then you're also dealing, when you said tunnels, now the road could probably shorten, so that limits where you want to move and then move and shoot. So it definitely limits mobility or weather conditions. Hey, what if your car is not equipped for rain? What if it's not equipped for hot weather? So there's a lot of things that come into play with that. But that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, and I think it's actually one of the more challenging fights later in the game is the road becomes incredibly narrow that you have to deal with. And not having a mobility is really tough. And I think a fun thing we do sometimes is, even if the road is narrow, will have multiple roads on the screen, right? And you can jump between them, and you have to kind of take that into account for positioning and making sure that you have a good line of fire. So, but yeah, I think we had a lot of fun trying to invent ways to make it make sense.
Okay, awesome. But that was Aether and Iron. Thank you for showing us the game. And when can we expect it to release, and where can we buy it?
So March 30th in North America, 31st in Asia and Australia, and it will be on Steam for Mac and PC.
All right, awesome. Thank you so much. And I cannot wait to play the full game.
Oh, thank you. Really appreciate it.
All right.